enmeshed and is getting another twist to the extent that they're calling for another probe. Even you just said that we should also look at another probe to look at the public officials' dealings in this whole affair. What were you thinking when you heard about this bribery allegation?
Well, my own mind is, to my mind, is not unusual because of the nature of our country. If you are doing an activity that will affect the interest of the other person, the tendency of a particular, a typical businessman is to influence you and attract you. It's up to you to either take it or not take it. So whoever started that process, Lawan must know the consequences of what he was doing, because he's an experienced person. I know him personally. He should have known that this is normal. If you are in that kind of responsibility, people will come and influence you. And he has been saying so. At what point did he now decide to attract that person in order to expose him, knowing fully well that he's a businessman? He will catch you more than what you are going to imagine.
For Femi Otedola and those on his side, they say it was a sting operation. From what you've seen so far, does it have the color of a sting operation?
I don't think so. I don't think so. If you watch the television properly, which channel captured, Lawan went back to change the content of that report to favor Otedola. At that point, Otedola was not the one that acted, because he has already performed what the role he was supposed to perform by taking the money. So if Otedola's name was not there before, then we'll have a place for his excuse. But you have already prepared a report. You put the name of the two companies there as being culpable. You went to the floor to now remove those two names that, no, they are okay now. So, to my mind, at that point, he is culpable.
So as a lawyer, what's the place of law in all of this now?
Unfortunately, we can't find the money, because that is the evidence.
Well, that's the evidence?
Yes.
Is it a lost case if we can't really find the money?
So what are you going to take to court now?
What about the conversation? What about video evidence? Would that help?
It's not criminal. What offenses has they committed by phoning?
So if it were to be a sting operation, the marked money given to him, he would have been apprehended with the money in his possession.
Immediately. That is when you have a case against him. Why did they allow him to take the money away? Then we are now talking about it. The man will never bring out the money. And once the police doesn't see an evidence, what are they going to do?
So you don't think that the police truly has enough evidence to be able to prosecute?
They don't have. They don't have.
Let's go back a little now to the subsidy report. You know, initially when the report was released, there were fears that the federal government, the executive arm of government, might be unwilling to act on that particular report. But the the Attorney General of the Federation told us that they had a lot of work to do on it first. They had to build a case before they finally proceeded to the court. Now, you have said that enough public officers or officials were not exactly fingered in that particular report. Don't you think that the executive arm of government could have gone ahead to be able to build a case, or while doing its own investigations, could have come across that and put that in while they are presenting their case in the court?
Well, my own view is that the major function of the Office of the Attorney General now is to identify the public officers that participated and approved and signed all those documents. Those are the ones that must be brought to book first before you talk about the marketers. Because the marketer is the end beneficiary. But the major culprit is the official that participated in that act.
But recently the GMD of the NNPC was changed. Do you think that these are already, signs that maybe leadership at some parastatals and, some ministries possibly might be changed as well? Would that...
You don't need to change them. You have to punish them. They have to go to jail for it. It's not by changing them. Why are you changing them for? They benefited. A marketer cannot collect so much money without public officers getting involved.
So now you're talking, that's a new one, because yesterday the headline that we got was that the coordinating minister for the economy did say, well, they were going to get back all the monies given to some of these marketers concerning subsidy. And you're saying it should be prosecution, not
By who? Who is going to collect the money?
Not a refund.
How can they refund? Who approved the money in the first place?
But from this, you know, from the investigations that have been going on, we understand that a couple of banks have, you know, disowned some of the forms that were raised by these marketers as credit lines. They are saying that, no, we don't know anything about these people bringing in this money, because usually the banks are involved. And if the banks are disowning that, isn't that enough ground for the Ministry of Finance to be able to recover some of the monies that were gotten, say, illegally by the marketers?
That is the accounting side, the monetary side. I'm not too sure about that. I'm sure about the process of getting that money out. That's my concern.
Maybe you should take us through the process, because from what we understand, it doesn't seem like we're very clear on how it works in government circles.
There are government financial procedure. If you give a contract, that is Public Procurement Act, the process you must go through, the documents you must obtain, before the approvals that must be obtained internally before payment is made. You are not privy to that. It is the public officers that are privy to that. Your own responsibility is to supply the goods. You cannot bribe the public officer to say, look, you have supplied where you are not supplied.
It will be a matter of bribe. I mean, what if you forge papers and you raise false forms and, you know, never saw any approval?
Like that. They have their
would
own
would they be able to tell the difference?
Of course. They have their own forms. They have their own vouchers. You cannot forge vouchers and I will sign. No.
Well, one other sore area that people really don't understand, perhaps being someone who was in the National Assembly, you should expatiate more on that and tell us how it operates, is the should I say, compliance, or the insistence of the House on Ethics, saying that they will not meet in public, when Femi Otedola, who came in as a witness, insisted that he would want it to be a public kind of hearing or meeting.
The suspicion is that they can doctor his report, and he is entitled to read too, because it's not part of the the National Assembly. He's saying, before I can talk, it has to be in the open, and it won't be. If not, it means he's not going to talk to them, and it's not obliged to talk to them.
Some legal practitioners say that the hearing of the Ethics and Privileges Committee is premature. Do you agree?
Totally, I agree. Because it's for the misconduct of its members. That is the Ethics and Privileges Committee. It's for the members. It's not for an outsider.
Exactly, but in this particular case, while building their case against the member, wouldn't they need the testimony of a witness, especially?
So let it be in the open. The witness says, I cannot talk in private. I would prefer to expose all of you in the public. Why not?
Some have also argued that why didn't he also say the same when he went to the police and the SSS? Why didn't he say he would want to talk to them in the open? Why is it with the National Assembly?
The responsibility of the police to a Nigerian is not the same as responsibility to the Ethics and Privilege Committee. That is internal, and it is supposed to cover only members of the National Assembly. It has nothing to do with an outsider.
That refusal by the Ethics Committee on that day that Femi Otedola was there, did that particular move drop their approval rating, or?
It was not necessary.
It wasn't?
Have allowed him. They should have, okay, you want it in public, continue.
What kind of questions would you have expected them to ask him on that day, being a witness?
Maybe we have heard about, if you do have a video recording of what happened, do you have a call log of what happened? Those are the things, and they can play it there, and they will ask questions. It can never be done properly in private, because it will be him, his lawyer, and all the members of the House of Rep. So who is going to collaborate what he's saying now?
Now, you just talked that his lawyer were there with him. Wasn't that enough reason for him to go ahead with them doing it in private? Because if he has his lawyers, those are already witnesses to whatever transpired.
It's entitled to his own opinion. He can be skeptical. He may not trust them enough. because they are also a participant in the thing. It's their member that they wanted to query. It is not him. So it's assisting them. And to assist you to arrive at a decision, let it be open.
Do you expect fairness from the Ethics and Privileges Committee?
Open, yes.
If it is open, there's a caveat.
Yes. If it is not open, no, I don't trust them.
Coming from a former lawmaker, I think
Yes,
that
because
is instructive.
That is his own constituency. And to be able to expose member of your constituency is difficult.
Okay, taking a look again at this process, I'm still a little bothered about the process because I remember that it was one issue that gave the lawmakers a real tough time. You know, they kept on going back and forth. What is the process? Some say they have to own depots. Some say no, at some point that requirement was waived for them. At some point, you know, it was getting rather difficult to be able to verify some of the papers, and if truly products left the port or if truly the ships were docked in our ports. We hear things about mother ships, daughter ships, you know, and these were the things that we're hearing about, ships being parked in Cotonou and then also being, you know, brought down to Nigeria. It was a very, very complicated and messy affair, as it were. It seemed that the guidelines that were laid down by the Department of Petroleum Resources and even the PPPRA had been subverted at a particular point, so much so that they now had briefcase all marketers, as it were, people who did not own any facilities but were allowed to bring in products.
But was that not deliberate? If you have a template, a structure that before you can import, these are the conditions you must meet, and somebody now tinker, it is an insider that can tinker. It is not the marketer. Whoever changed all these rules along the line, he's the one that is culpable. It's not the marketer.
They haven't seen the report. I mean, were those things not covered in that particular report?
They must pinpoint responsibility and culpability on the public officers first, because they were the ones that participated actively in the subsidy issue. You know, not the marketer alone.
Alone is the key word there. So if the marketers are being fingered along with the public officials.
Let us know the public officers involved. Who gave the approval? There is approval level in the institutions, in government institutions. If it is 20 million, you have responsibility to approve. If it is 50 million, you have responsibility to approve. If it is 200 million, you have responsibility to approve. At each stage of level of approval or approving authority, who was responsible? What was his own responsibility? But did he exercise the duty of care to the nation before approving? Because that is the person the nation knows. The nation don't know the marketers.
We're also told about the extent that an investigatory panel set up or a probe panel by the House of Assembly can go. They don't have the powers of prosecution. They cannot prosecute, as it were, and they also cannot indict. They're just a mere fact-finding probe panel, as it were.
Expose corruption, which they have done perfectly now in monetary terms. But on the procedure, they've not done enough.
Are you saying
procedure for person taking money, such amount of money out of the system, the public officer must be responsible.
But shouldn't that be left to the people who are going to prosecute?
Who are you prosecuting? If you take the marketers to court, you are not going to win. Because the major culprit is still in the institution.
The investigators should be able to bring that out, shouldn't they?
Where is it? Who approved what that he shouldn't have approved?
You don't think the EFCC has the powers to be able to do this job?
Maybe that's what they are doing now. So it is not only the marketers that you pursue first. It's those people that approved, that signed, before the marketers collected the money.
If you agree that the EFCC can, would we still need another probe to be able to find that out?
Maybe that is what the Attorney General will do, or that is what the EFCC will do. Because don't remove them now. Because if you remove them, they will travel.
Have we been so slow in adopting the recommendations of that particular probe?
What are we adopting? To my mind, it's just a scratch in the surface. Honestly, it will get us nowhere unless you study the document and see the person that approved the payment.
Should we also be thinking of fixing our refineries? Because some say if the refineries were working, well, we wouldn't have gotten into all of this
How would they
mess in
allow
the
the
first
refinery
place.
to work? It is the same public officer that is managing the refinery.
Excuse me,
And is making a lot of
allowed
money.
to work, meaning
Yes.
that there's some sabotaging the effort of
Of
fixing
course,
the
are they
refineries?
not gaining? They are benefiting. Of course. Unless you start to arrest the public officers for negligence, for destroying this country, and prosecuting them.
But the public officers, without the politician, the political class, can't be trying to do anything, should I say, to scuttle the whole plan of the political process.
Of course.
So why?
You have more responsibility than the politician. When you make a recommendation, you stand by your recommendation.
But we haven't seen any that the public officers have failed to execute.
No. You make your recommendation. You ask him to approve, but your observation will be sequenced. And you say, oh, in this case, I do not think we should approve this matter. However, since you are the boss, you can approve. The man will not approve.
You know, they've always done
It is
that.
science.
Senator Ogunlewe,
Servants,
yes,
they are scientists. They know how to write the memo and protect themselves. But where they collude with the public, with the politician, and write a favorable report,
if they beat the politicians at their own game, in their own game, shouldn't we be talking about putting technocrats who also understand the workings and the public service to be there as ministers, DGs, and heads?
We have them already in the structure. You don't need them at the head. No, you have them in the structure. The permanent secretary, the directors, the assistant directors. They've been there for at least 25 years before you become a permanent secretary. And he knows what to do. He knows the rules. He knows what not to do. No matter how much you put pressure on him, he will still, if he is a reliable person, he will put his view in the memo
I also think
and
that
exonerate himself.
Also,
but you can approve at the end of the day. But when you see his conclusions, you will not approve.
but that's a plus.
Because I have done it several times.
That's a plus for the public officer, because if he knows his onions and he's been doing perfectly well,
Yes.
then shouldn't those who are the political class or those who dish out instructions also be at the tip of
You are advisor
situation?
to him. He doesn't have to be. You are his advisor. That's why you are in the structure.
Who is the advisor there?
The public officer.
He advises the politician, let's say
Yes.
the minister and the
Yes.
head.
To tell him the regulations, to tell him if you have circulars, to teach him the financial instructions.
But as a minister,
to tell him you are not.
Excuse me, let me come here. But as a
entitled to
minister or a public or government official, you also have your own advisors, your own aides, your own retinue of
Many.
people who also advise you. So
Yes.
if the public officer is misleading you, shouldn't those aides be telling you what exactly to do?
It is very difficult for the public officer to mislead you if he's a proper public officer. But it is you that will influence him, and he will not agree. Because he is a career person. You have a tenure. Another 4 years, you are out.
Do you think that we have many proper public officers?
Many. But although they may not get, on well in the system, but there are many of them. They are very qualified, professional people that you cannot toss around. They will tell you, look, you are a politician, you are going to go. These are the things we have been doing here, and we cannot do it your way.
There is a hope for us.
If we retain our institutions, if we train our public officers well, because the future of any nation depends on the public officers, their integrity, their courage to resist temptation. But in this sort of subsidy case, I've never seen the position of a public officer that has come out to say, we told them this, but they did this.
Well,
And this is the person that did it.
well, Adeseye
So that they
Ogunlewe.
will not carry all the public officers as if they are not trained, they are just misnomer, they are there to steal money.